There are only two exciting things about the Panthers on Monday night: Matthew Tkachuk's return and a goalie fight.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, January 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. And it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. Today, we are going to break down the Panthers' 4-1 loss against the San Jose Sharks on Monday night. We're going to also discuss our 3 duds of the game and the moment when we knew the game was lost. And we are also going to discuss the goalie fight in segment number 3, how exciting that was, and also the fact that the Panthers have lost Niko Mikkola. We don't know how long that is, but we will discuss the possible impact if he is out long term. So, yeah, the Florida Panthers lost to the San Jose Sharks on Monday night and have been swept by the Sharks for the first time since the 2015-2016 season. The Panthers were on a 12-game winning streak against San Jose going into this season and now have been swept in both games. And both of those games for the Panthers is where they have dominated the possession. 38 shots in the previous matchup. And again, in the high 30s for the Panthers in this one as well. A push in the third period a little bit, only got it to a 2-goal deficit, but it was 3 goals in the second period for the Sharks in less than 6 minutes that truly made the difference after it was scoreless at 0-0 after period 1. But this was the first game for Matthew Tkachuk returning to the Florida Panthers lineup for the first time since Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Spoke about how he called his dad this morning and is like, yeah, a lot of great memories there, and also joked about how there was still a little bit of alcohol left on his hockey gear from the last time that they took the ice in a game. He took the ice in a game setting there, so was really excited to be back. He uses the word chomping at the bit for himself when it comes to his return, but it was exciting just seeing him out there in warmups, taking the pre-game interview with Katie Engelson, talking just about his excitement and also not sugarcoating things when the Panthers talking about how they need all the points that they could get coming down the stretch this season. And the Panthers did get a little bit of help on the evening as well. And the Panthers were unfortunately not able to come out with the win from the teams that are ahead of them in the wild card race. But I mean, I thought the Panthers were actually connecting really well in the beginning of this hockey game, where you see that there was a little bit of great pace where the Panthers did lead in shots 10-8. I thought that for the Panthers, Matthew Tkachuk was also doing a great job of doing a little bit of the agitating that he did, and that's something that the Panthers miss. I mean, the example with Vincent Desharnais, when both of them were back in the Sharks zone, and the Panthers were coming up in transition, just the continuous wax, and then Matthew Tkachuk is able to draw a coincidental minor and giving Desharnais the extra 2, and then the Panthers were going on the power play. Then, although Matthew Tkachuk was in the box during the coincidental minor, we didn't see Matthew Tkachuk get on that first power play unit immediately, but we did eventually see him go on the power play unit later in that game. And also, it didn't take long for the Florida Panthers coaching staff to put him back in the top 6. I mean, again, he didn't have a preseason to ramp up. They said that he wasn't going to be he wasn't coming back to feel his way back in, that he was going to go at full speed and take the brunt of the minutes if he had to. And he played just under 21 minutes. So that is the kind of, and with the sense of urgency that the Florida Panthers have to have in order to make the playoffs, that it was great to see, like, Matthew Tkachuk never left for this Florida Panthers team. And we saw a lot of the great plays that Matthew Tkachuk was attempting to make multiple times where the Panthers were either near the walls, whether it was on the far side going in transition both times in the first period. One of the plays was near the in the neutral zone near the benches, where he's allowing the play to come up and he's nailing on that stretch pass just as they're able to get in the zone, whether it's on their tape or at least a tap to get in deep so the Panthers could get on their forecheck. Matthew Tkachuk is anticipating and allowing the players to get in on the play. And there was another one later in that period where he had the puck at the half wall, and then he created a chance. One of those chances where it was Toby Bjornfoot, where he was also great in creating those chances there. And you see why the Florida Panthers trust him so much whenever he is the call-up. He did lead the Florida Panthers in Corsi for percentage for the evening at 64%, almost at 65, mind you. That Anton Lundell, Luosterainen, and Sam Reinhart line also did a great job in keeping Macklin Celebrini at bay. And that's a line that is feared for San Jose, as Macklin Celebrini, like we mentioned, 40 points over the next best guy on his team, and as impactful on over 50% of their goals. And the one goal that the Florida Panthers did score, it was with that Macklin Celebrini line on the ice, as Eetu Luosterainen threw it on net, deflects off of a San Jose Sharks player, with Sam Reinhart putting on a screen on Alex Nedeljkovic and able to at least get it to a 2-goal deficit. But really, for the Panthers, just the fact that they were really spread out, or the fact that they were caught in a line change or late to back checking, is the reason why that the Panthers were able to that the Panthers were not able to, come up with a win. And it's just like, Sergei Bobrovsky is going to give up his fair share of rebounds for himself, but when you're not tight in your own end, and you don't collapse in around the slot, you're going to get a lot of those second chance opportunities. And the fact that the Panthers in that second period were just standing still and not moving their feet. And even Paul Maurice in the second period interview with Katie Engelson was just talking all about that. And in the first one, the Panthers lost the board battle, and then someone from the San Jose Sharks is coming from the middle, and then able to get that goal to make it the first one of the game. That was Will Smith, actually, where the Panthers were spread out. And then the other ones caught in transition, and also the fact that the forwards were very deep in their own end when they lose the puck. And one of them was on a line when the Panthers already tinkered the lines, and one of them was before. So one line is pretty responsible for the fact that the Panthers were unable to at least get the forwards back, and they were and one of them was at the end of their shift. Either way, the power play continues to be up and down. We saw how fast the Sharks power play was able to zip the puck in their own end. They created more of the scoring chances, while the Florida Panthers gave away some shorthanded opportunities and were losing the puck and everything. So that is just the very concerning part of this one. And for the San Jose Sharks, the fact that two of the 4 goals, if you exclude the empty netters, are coming from depth defenseman guys. Vinny Desharnais, it's been a few years since he scored a goal, and Mario Ferraro, who's not known as a goal scorer, gets on the scoring for the Sharks. So that's just the most head scratching, that it's not the top guys for San Jose getting on the scoring. And it's the Florida Panthers that, although you got to get acclimated to putting guys in different roles again, which AJ Greer was put back on the third line, and he's been playing well in these elevated minutes. That could be a little bit of an adjustment period. It just doesn't take it. I don't think it takes just one period for at least a depth guy to adjust. But when you have the skill of a Matthew Tkachuk going up to that, that's a little bit easier for a guy like of his talent to get to play at a certain level again, which he's so used to playing with Sam Bennett. He's so used to playing with Carter Verhaeghe. So as far as long-term concern for if that line is going to be impactful in the coming games or even a week or two, that one I'm not concerned with. So it's just great to see Matthew Tkachuk back. The Panthers we thought that the Panthers were going to at least spark a little bit of a fire after the goalie fight, which we'll discuss, which we'll break it down a little bit in segment number 3. But the Panthers were just not able to just continue to push. And also after the fight, we thought that the Panthers were going to be able to get a second goal from that Eetu Luosterainen, Lundell, and Reinhart line, but the referee blew their whistle a little too early there, and I thought that was quite the missed opportunity. Although that's not the reason why the Panthers lost. They were just again, very spread out and late to their back checks there. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss the 3 duds of the game and then the moment when we knew the game was lost. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And there's nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, hits, atmosphere, it's unmatched. Watching a game at home is great, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way was actually getting tickets. Long queues, endless screens, and the price changing at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I pulled up the Game Time app to check out the upcoming NHL games and was surprised how fast it was to find great seats. Priority fees are included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. The app is easy to use. Browsing, comparing, and buying tickets took just minutes. I really like that the fees are included upfront, so the price you see is the price you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. You can do that all on Game Time. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday, and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. And if you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. And it's an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, which is compatible with Apple, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. It's an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes group chats for listeners of the show, and you can tap the link in the show notes to learn more. So it's a Florida Panthers loss for them on Monday night against San Jose, and which means that we are going to discuss our 3 duds of the game and then the moment when we knew the game was lost. So number 3 dud is going to be an entire line for the Panthers, and it's going to go with the Rodrigues line for the Panthers. One of the goals that they gave up was when Matthew Tkachuk was on that line, getting caught in a change, which was the second goal for them, and then one of them was after that, where again the Mackey and Evan Rodrigues were really tight towards the half walls. They missed the puck, and then both of them are having a hard time getting up to speed and transitioning. And then right before Mario Ferraro scores to make it 3-0, Mackey is a little bit late on that back check there, where the Panthers where Sergei Bobrovsky gives up that rebound once again for the Panthers. Number 2 dud is going to be Sergei Bobrovsky. Again, not entirely his fault, which is why he's not my number 1 dud for the Panthers. There is the fact that you want to at least give have those rebounds be around your crease so that you could at least get a glove on it and get at least a whistle to at least give your forwards an opportunity to change and also get a defensive zone draw in your own end. So I'm not entirely Bob's fault, but when you give that many goals and it's in the same way, that for me is going to be my number 2 dud for the game. Number 1 dud for me is going to be Uvis Balinskis for the Panthers here. First one is a untimely pinch that leaves Niko Mikkola on a little bit of an island there, and then there's the give and go play from the San Jose Sharks on the second goal, and then Desharnais comes in, and again that's on that line change that I mentioned earlier just a few seconds ago. And then one of them losing a board battle where they work it low to high there on that second one, and then the third goal for the Sharks there, he just gets a little bit lost and just doesn't take away the shooting lane on that first shot right before the rebound. So number 26, Uvis Balinskis, he's been outstanding in these last 2 games since signing the contract extension. But this is just the giveth and the taketh nature that we've seen with Uvis Balinskis. We've seen a little bit of that up and down, and honestly, he is a third pairing defenseman playing an elevated role right now for the Panthers. Did lose Niko Mikkola in this game, So he's had to work with a lot of different partners throughout his time with the Florida Panthers. I mean, he was paired up with Josh Mahura. Let's not forget that at the very start, and then paired with Dmitry Kulikov, Jeff Petrie. At times, he was paired with OEL when he was before he was sent down to the AHL in his first year with the Panthers. So he's had a lot of these different partners, but we've also seen how loose he can be with the puck in the offensive zone, but also how he doesn't necessarily take away the passing lanes and the shooting lanes in his own end. We don't see the highlight reel stops on the 2-on-1s like we see with Gustav Forsling, of sliding, getting the stick in the lanes, and also when it comes to those board battles where you're able to reach your stick around and separate the puck there. That's just a little bit of a weakness that we've seen in Uwe Smolenskis's game for him. But hey, still a great story on him getting the extension. We know that the ceiling is very low for him, but I do believe that the floor is very high for Uwe Smolenskis and can play in this role temporarily for himself. But the moment when we knew the game was lost, I'm going to go with the Mario Ferraro goal. Again, it was nice to see that the Panthers were able to at least keep that Macklin Celebrini line at bay for the most part. Actually, I'm going to look real quick how that line officially did as far as 5-on-5. So Corsi for percentage was just over 57% for that Macklin Celebrini line, but they were outshot 4-3 as a lot of their opportunities were just getting blocked or missing the net. So great job for that Lundell, Luosterainen, Reinhardt line there to at least not give them an opportunity to at least create more of those scoring chances. And also the Panthers there, they were also taking away the second line by a bit. They were the Alex Weddenberg, who actually former Panther, got an extension with the Sharks. Actually, a nice little key piece for San Jose. Also, the San Jose Sharks made a decent trade yesterday, getting Kiefer Sherwood from the Vancouver Canucks, who's currently hurt right now. He's going to be with the Sharks after the Olympic break, and that actually lowered his trade value. And the Sharks have enough cap space to at least put in his full $1.5 million salary. The Sharks don't have a lot of contracts and don't have a lot of big money to hand out, at least immediately down the future. They could at least afford to pay him at least in the $4 or $5 million if they decide to extend him. And also the fact that they don't have to give up much, great for them. And he brings the physicality. There's a lot of guys who bring the physicality in San Jose. We mentioned Desharnais. We mentioned there's also Ryan Reeves for the Sharks there as well. And Kiefer Sherwood is going to be another one, as the San Jose Sharks are trying to still learn how to play with the top guns in the NHL. So that Lemberg line, 13 outshot as far as attempts, 13-5, and as far as total shots on goal, 10-5 in favor of the Panthers there when they were on. But that Michael Misa line, man, Michael Misa last year was playing in Saginaw in the OHL and being part of the Memorial Cup, he shot that line outshot the Panthers 7-2. So we saw the difference between the bottom six for the Panthers there in that game, which again, that's why the Rodrigues line was my third dud of the game there. But as far as the moment where we knew the game was lost for the Panthers was the Mario Ferraro goal. The first two goals for the San Jose Sharks, those came just under 2 minutes apart for the Sharks, but then less than 4 minutes later, after the second goal, you still had plenty of hockey, which this game took very long, especially after the fight, which we'll get to in a little bit. That's where for this one, the fact that the game was long and the fact that it was a 3-goal deficit for the Panthers that they were unable to overcome. That's where it's just like, man, it's really hard for the Panthers to do this a third time. We saw them do it against the Carolina Hurricanes, but that was just the nail in the coffin, at least for the Panthers here, for the goal that brought them to a 2-goal deficit. That was Aaron Ekblad's 400th point of his NHL career, climbing up there as still the best defenseman in Florida Panthers history. And even Aaron Ekblad after the game spoke about how he's not defined by points anymore in his career and has fully changed his game for the better. We definitely saw that when the Panthers did win their back-to-back Stanley Cups and just being matched up against the opposition's best over and over again for him. So congratulations to Aaron Ekblad there. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss the goalie fight, the first one for the Florida Panthers in over 20 years. And the fact that the Panthers also lost Niko Mikkola. So what does that mean for the Florida Panthers blue line going forward if he's out long term? We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment number 3 here on this Tuesday, January 20th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, Locked On. So a goalie fight. We witnessed the first goalie fight for the Florida Panthers. Not actually more than 20 years, not only more than 20 years, but it's been almost 30 years since the Florida Panthers have been involved in a goalie fight, since the first one since April 6th of 1997. So just under 29 years for the Panthers here. So the very first goalie fight for the Panthers was on May 24th, 1996, between John Van Beesbrook and Tom Barrasso of the Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final. And then the one on April 6th between Mark Fitzpatrick and Bill Ranford of the Washington Capitals. And then on January 19th, 2026, between Sergei Bobrovsky and Alex Nedeljkovic. So when the difference between these two, the first two fights and then the fight on Monday night, was the fact that both of those first two fights for Panthers goaltenders came at the end of the game. The Panthers did win that Game 3 in Pittsburgh. Sorry, in Sunrise, in Miami Arena. Sorry, by a final score of 5-2, they won that one. The one on April 6th against the Washington Capitals, the Panthers and the Capitals tied that game. And then the Panthers, this one, which came in the middle of the game as opposed to the end of the game, ended up in a loss. So 1-1 and 1 when Florida Panthers goalies have gotten into a fight. And Sergei Bobrovsky did get penalized for leaving the crease, just like Alex Nedeljkovic, which Desharnais was committed a penalty on Mackie Samoskevich in the corner. And then Evan Rodrigues maybe have gotten away with a penalty himself for going after Desharnais for taking exception. And I thought that he could have possibly gotten a roughing penalty there. And Alex Nedeljkovic not liking that and getting very involved in the scuffle after the fact. And then we were denied a Marc-Andre Fleury versus Jordan Binnington fight just a few years ago. And then we actually also got the audio from that same thing saying, come on, let me do it. It'll be fun from Marc-Andre Fleury. So I miss watching Flower play hockey and all the jokes that comes with that. But we were denied of that, especially with how much of a hothead Jordan Binnington is. But Sergei Bobrovsky, can't say that he necessarily fought well for his there as far as the quality of fight, but the fact that we witnessed it, and it was, maybe this is something that we don't see at least in the immediate future, but man, was that awesome. And just the fact that South Florida was already on an emotional high based on the Miami Hurricanes being in the national championship, which congratulations on a great season for the Canes. Either way, go listen to Alex Dano of Locked On Canes, and he'll break everything down there. Matthew Tkachuk did make it to the game eventually, just an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes after his media availability. There, he found a way to make it in the middle of the third quarter for that game. But the fact is that, man, what we witnessed was an absolute treat. But unfortunately, that's the only highlight for the Florida Panthers and Matthew Tkachuk's return. Those were the only highlights for the Panthers there, although they did make that push towards the end. And there was a point where the Panthers were just trading odd man rushes where there was a 2-on-1 where Matthew Tkachuk tried to set up Sam Bennett, and it was deflected and didn't get a shot on goal. But then after Sergei Bobrovsky made a stop on another rush, that was a little bit of a run and gun for the Panthers. The second time that Matthew Tkachuk did take it up the ice for the Panthers, he did not hesitate at all on taking that shot for the Panthers there. So frustrating to say the least for the Panthers. And it's 0 points when you feel like in this season series you really dominated and tilted the ice in your direction, but just different times of the San Jose Sharks taking advantage of just not being tight in your own end has the Panthers at 0 points out of a possible 4 against San Jose this season. And just it just goes to show that there's a possibility of the tables turning in the Eastern Conference or even in the entire NHL, with the Panthers being as hobbled as they are, the players from other teams getting a year older and more experience. So the Panthers got to act fast, and they got to start winning games fast here, as they're going to be right back on the road on a 3-game road trip out in the Midwest, and it's going to be very cold in Winnipeg, in the negatives, even negative Celsius there in the first game of this road trip for them. But the Panthers also did lose Niko Mikkola in this game with about 4 minutes left in the second period. Did not play the entirety of the third period at all. And Paul Maurice did say that he says the usual thing that doesn't give us an answer one way or the other is that he'll get checked tomorrow. Well, tomorrow's here. The Panthers don't have practice, so we won't know any answers until Wednesday, when the Panthers do take the ice again, right before leaving to Manitoba for their first game of this road trip that they're going on. But man, the Panthers have prided themselves all throughout the regular season, really before the Winter Classic, in being healthy and everything. And the fact is that losing Seth Jones is one thing that really affects both sides on the ice: power play, penalty kill. Niko Mikkola, with that long reach of his, in order to just take away opportunities at the net front and just get a quick swipe out of their own end, that level of play for the Panthers around their net, and the fact that he can activate in the offense as well from time to time, that's a big miss. That's a big for the Panthers, that if they are going to be, in fact, without him for a long period of time. And then you see how the Panthers lineup is looking right now, with at least Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling, knock on wood, are healthy right now. But you see if the Panthers are bringing back Donovan Zabrango into the mix in the lineup, and then who's the guy who's going to be going up on that second pair? I assume it's going to be Jeff Petrie, and then Uvis Belinskis is going to be going to that left side, and then you're going to have a pair of Donovan Zabrango and Tobias Bjornfoot on your third pair. Man, are the minutes going to be munching for Gustav Forsling and Aaron Ekblad. And also, Gustav Forsling is already playing power play minutes, something that he doesn't really do, and he's playing on that second power play unit. So these injuries for the Panthers, which, by the way, let me mention this before I get to my next point. Seth Jones is on LTIR. They transitioned him to LTIR retroactive to January 2nd. And the fact is, when you go on LTIR, you have to miss 10 games and 24 days. So the earliest that Seth Jones can return to the lineup is January 27th against the Utah Mammoth. So he's not eligible to come back at all throughout this road trip. So if Niko Mikkola is out for a long period of time, or even in this next stretch of games for the Panthers, oh man, is that going to be tough on the defense, the minutes, but also it's going to be tough on the forwards, as you're going to be really asking this Panthers forward group to really play deeper in their own D zone, and that's gonna hurt offense as well, especially when they're getting out in transition, because if the Panthers are going to be dumping the puck, or if the defense is closing in the gap, you're not going to be the faster one on when it comes to trying to activate on the forecheck. Which, by the way, I do want to give a lot of praise to AJ Greer yesterday on the times where he almost had Alex Nedeljkovic fumble the puck when the Panthers dumped it in. But the fact that he's playing on that third line and maybe they don't get the puck as deep as fast as someone like Sam Bennett would, that's also another thing that could affect the Panthers game as far as their ability to create scoring chances or even get time in the offensive zone, because getting chances in offensive zone time on the forecheck is just like running the football where you get a lot of time off the clock and you also make your goaltender's life a little easier, which I'm curious to see of how the Panthers really navigate this going forward. And if he is going to be and the Panthers got to prepare for another thing. If Niko Mikkola isn't able to come back, and they got to use that money elsewhere to possibly conduct a trade to bring in some depth defense, because I'm not saying that you can't survive without Alexander Barkov there, but if Jeff Petrie and Uvis Belinskis are on your second pair, and you're putting so much minutes on Forsling and Ekblad there, then I'm worried. I'm really worried about this team, because the goaltending hasn't been at its best this year already with most of the top four together. I would fear that it would only get worse. And when it comes to giving up high quality scoring chances for on their end. So this is a tough one for the Panthers, and it's going to be a tough one to navigate. And we just hope that Niko Mikkola is okay. And I know nothing. Only the people in that room know what's actually going on, and if he's going to be, in fact, okay right before the Panthers do head out for just over a week to play 3 games outside of South Florida, which the stretch is almost over for the Panthers. The load of road games in the month of January, which they thankfully grinded out this last road trip at 3-3-0. You would have hoped that the Panthers would have gotten a better record, but the fact is that the Panthers are still in striking distance, but they are running out of time. As far as the dates on the calendar, when it comes to the end of the season, yeah, it looks far away, but the fact is that these games are going to come at them fast. These games are going to come at them fast even before the Olympic break. So at least for the Panthers, get some kind of streak going so that this team can feel good when it comes to the Olympic break. And we're not talking about a possibility of the Panthers needing to play 700 hockey after the Olympic break. So because right now the Panthers need to play around 650 points percentage going forward in order to make it. Last time I calculated, the last team in was around 96 points. And guess what? That was the record that the Panthers set back in 2018 when they missed the playoffs, but setting the record for the most points for a team to miss the playoffs. So we'll see then. And it all starts on Thursday night in Winnipeg for the Panthers, which will be back either Wednesday morning or Wednesday night. We still haven't decided what our recording time will be with Jacob Winans, as we will preview this upcoming road trip for the Florida Panthers, and we could get an update on Niko Mikkola then. So make sure to come back here as we will provide that all and also discuss the upcoming road trip for the Panthers. So thank you guys, as always, for listening to this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on our Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Steer Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.